How's it going, everybody? If you guys don't know, about a month ago, we put out a YouTube video called "Is Rocket League Approaching a New Era?" And if you guys didn't watch that video, number one, what the heck? Please go back and watch it. Number two, if you don't know the context, I started talking about how right now in Rocket League, there's kind of this transition of like old guard versus new guard and the different iterations of rosters that we're seeing. Most recently, we saw kind of like everybody in North America funnel all the top talent towards the top for a chance to finally go and beat Europe after BDS clapped everybody. But one of the teams in Europe that's been struggling lately is Team Vitality. And a month ago, I put out a video about possibly Vitality entering this new era where they have like three so-called options they can do based upon how they want to transition the team, based upon who they want to find a new roster if things aren't going well. The finality of what Vitality is known and loved might possibly change. I'm talking primarily about K-Dop and Fairy Peak because Alpha is putting up 1,000 points per game and he's doing just fine. So in today's video, we're going to talk about not only that video and kind of the new iterations and the new situation that has arrived, but also just some context on the scenario and try to possibly extrapolate on some of the information that we do have. To start it off, a month ago, I talked about, hey, Fairy Peak, K-Dop, and Alpha. Clearly, results are not going well. They went from being a team that was top 11 or so, top 14. Like, the fall major didn't go their way, and that did not continue in winter either. Their results so far in winter, as you guys can probably see right here, have not been pretty. They started off okay in Winter Regional 1, and we're like, all right, it's not so bad. Like, they still got a chance to come and compete. So in those results, Team Vitality ended up finishing top 6. Not terrible. That's either the same thing as winning 2 matches in the lower rounds of the new bracket, or finishing number 1 in their group, which they did not do. Everybody was kind of like iffy about it. They went 1 and 2. They took losses from both Endpoint in 5, so it's a pretty close series actually, and from K-Corp where they got swept. The only one they did get was against a Navi team where Virtuoso was rubber banding like crazy. If you guys haven't seen the clip, check it out. It's hilarious. They're basically playing 2v3. Navi forfeited their first matches. Like, they basically got like the Mickey Moon group and automatically made it through. And then in the lower bracket, they beat Evil Geniuses in 5. They beat Singularity 3-0 before ultimately getting swept by Endpoint, who just got done getting beat up by Team BDS. But in Regional 2, they went 0-3. And in Regional 3, they went 0-3. It hasn't been good. Vitality has not been doing that great. So at this point, we've assumed that it is time for Vitality to make some changes. It is that new era is happening. It's here. Like, Vitality needs to do something different, and we've gotten some insight based upon what is happening. If you guys don't follow a lot of the teams for RLCS on Twitter, I'd recommend doing so. But there is now a lot of times where organizations are doing like a Team Vitality Rocket League or a Dignitas Rocket League Twitter, and the difficulty here is Vitality ends up putting out a tweet in French, but if we translate it, it says, hey, the team is going to be back in May. Vitality is stating, hey, we're still going to be here. Courage to the staff and the players so far. It has been a rough, like, you're talking about contrast of that new era I've been talking about it, right? They are having to come to terms with the fact that the team has not been performing well. You're talking about the contrast between being a team that is consistently revered as one of the best, never count them out. If they're in the lower bracket, be careful, to 0-3, they're done. Like, they're automatically given spots only because the 3 previous results is carrying their seed. Like, they're guaranteed top 8 because their overall points from fall. That will not be the case when it comes to spring. It just won't. They are towards the bottom. They're going to have to go through qualifiers. That is a weird feeling for Vitality. They say changes will happen or they won't. Just remember that things are not happening and are not being made public. There is going to be stuff that possibly changes. It's not always going to be put out there for everybody to know. And this is in response to some of the rumors that have come out through Shift and otherwise. But primarily, there's a lot of conversation of it most likely being Fairy Peak that is being removed from the roster, or they're trying out different options, and that Vitality has their sights on a specific player. Whether it happens or not, they don't know. And if it doesn't, and they can't get that one player, then they're going to just continue with their team through spring, which quite honestly could be the fact that they don't make the wild card, let alone the World Championship. I think right now, because of how poor they've done in the winter split, they are fighting for a wild card spot at best. They also talk about how support will always do more good than hate, which I'm a firm believer in. I always try to advocate for that here, is be realistic about some of these things. If you see a team that you love that is underperforming, support them when they need it more than ever. The team you're not supposed to harp on, you're not supposed to criticize and be like negative about, but more so be like, hey, like, guys, we're not performing as well. What kind of things can we do to improve? What kind of things are we noticing? Oh, you are looking at different teams and rosters and players? Okay, what if it is this player? How do we think they're going to fit into the role? Do they think they're going to replace this player and it's going to look better, or that player? I'm not trying to criticize the fact that we should get rid of this player. I'm just looking at the situation if it does occur. They then also put out a secondary tweet for that saying, hey, we love the players. Unconditional love and support to all of them. No matter what happens, we thank you for wearing your colors, this and that. So they do basically, and if we want to insinuate something, it shows that Vitality is most likely going to be making changes, but based upon the rumors that have come out from Shift and otherwise, what it may be, if it ends up happening, what the scenario is, we do not know, which is what they're basically stating. Like, hey, stuff may or may not come out. Support us, please. We'd appreciate it. Be positive and have some faith. Exactly, Pedro. Have some faith. While this is going on, Fairy Peak also ended up putting out, he on stream kind of addressed it. This is what he had to say.
To a Shift Esport tweet, I'm not officially leaving Vitality right now. As I said, like we did like some shit results during the last 6 months in the past tournament. So at the moment, nothing is sure, but like I can be kicked in like 1 week, like in 30 minutes, like I can stay in Vitality. So anyway, there's nothing official and nothing is written in the rock.
Also love the translation and what he is actually trying to say. So for those that could not understand that, this is the transcript. I'm not officially leaving Vitality right now. As I said, we did some poor results during the last 6 months in the past tournament. So at the moment, nothing is sure, but I can be kicked in 1 week, in 30 minutes, or I can stay in Vitality. There's nothing official. There's nothing written in the rock, set in stone, I think is what he's trying to translate it to. So the thing with Vitality is you can insinuate that possible things are changing, in the fact that they are discussing that I could be gone now, 5 minutes from now, I could maybe not, means that it feels like there is some process moving forward, and that, quote, nothing is written in the rock, which is fair. I think it is always important to emphasize like what factors go into roster changes, and I was happy that, you know, when I did get to cast for V1, I got to ask directly to Fireburner, one of the coaches, like what exactly goes through. And the general process is a lot of time it's a internal dialect. It is or internal dialogue where all the players are basically stating obviously what needs to happen, what things need to change. Is it you? Is it me? Who do we think it is? And for teams that have been around like this for a long time, I think both players are going to admit, you know, Alpha is not the problem. Like Alpha is clearly our star player, and Vitality can, like I said, in this approaching new era kind of situation with Vitality, they can either rebuild around Alpha, or Alpha tries to go and find a new home. I don't think Alpha would do that, but that is a potential thing that can happen. From the sounds of things, they want to keep 2/3 of their roster. They want to make sure they retain their points in the RLCS. So whether it be Fairy Peak or KDOP, most likely, if they can get the piece of the puzzle that they think they want, that will be the solution. I would hope that Vitality decides, okay, we're going to try out with Alpha, KDOP, new third. We're going to try out with Alpha, Fairy Peak, new third, and see which one fits best. I mean, you would hope that they try every single possible iteration, and that is not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of respect that I give to players, not only to like Fairy Peak for addressing it publicly and in English, thank you so much, but the ability to just be direct about it and say, hey, this is a situation that may or may not happen. We're waiting to see how it goes, because these players, the trade window isn't even open. They can't make these changes yet. They still have to wait for that window to be open. That doesn't mean that behind closed doors they can't try out and get into a process. I mean, I remember when Space Station was trying out Daniel. I mean, it was months in advance. They were making sure that these moves were going to happen ahead of time because they need to make sure that when RLCS Regional 1 comes back into play, they're ready to go. They've got a play style and some chemistry built. Like, there is going to be some interesting thoughts about what is going. People look statistically, Fairy Peak is the lowest performing at the current moment. If you do look at the stats, potentially that he's regressed a little bit. I also am a firm believer that Fairy Peak still is good at facilitating the field. And when your team is not playing well, players like that statistically do perform lower. So it varies a lot in how they want to do it. But the only people that truly know are the people like Mout, their coach, the staff behind the scenes, and the players themselves. So this is going to be an adjustment period, I think. Whether it happens or not, I've also heard, obviously, of rumors that people have talked about that if they can't find this one individual player, they're just going to keep playing it out. And then they're going to have to just try to do their best for the last split. But that is the scary thing. They are still within shooting range of possibly going to the World Championship, doing well as long as they have a good spring split. The difficulty is if they stay together, is it going to be a similar result with just straight up double elimination that we saw in winter? I don't know if not doing anything is going to be the solution, because unfortunately, as much as I love the Vitality roster and what kind of impact it's had over the past, couple of years, something's got to give. It's a pretty weird thing. We just got done talking on stream for like hours about the transition of that new era, or the old guard starting to like fall off a little bit. I'm interested to see on what happens with Vitality moving forward. So I will try to do my best to keep everybody watching both on YouTube and on Twitch up to date with the Vitality situation, who's going where, what's happening. But I'm also curious on what you guys think. French roster, probably going to want a French-speaking player. There's a couple high prolific French players out there that might possibly be enticed by the Vitality wallet. I also don't know how much Vitality is willing to invest into another player. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out, because there has been some teams that have fallen from grace, is the best way to say it, where they were once a top 8 or even top 4 team, and potentially a certain player is unhappy or not satisfied with their situation. I would also not be surprised if we see Europe do what NA just did this previous split, where they took all their team and all their best players and just funneled them to the top. It is possibly going to happen, because with all this depth in Europe, it will be very interesting to see on how these changes happen, because I do think Europe is going to make quite a few coming this spring trade window. But we'll have to wait and see on how that all plays out. As always, if you guys do enjoy the content, you do enjoy these kind of conversations, let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, give the video a like, hit subscribe, turn notifications, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.